Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast, the first of 2024. We are back again. It is us, the guys, and the slightly depressed fellas. We'll get into that in a sec. I am joined, of course, by Mr. Endurance M. And
Hi.
Mr. Sim for the win.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here. I don't know. I feel like I'm boring on all the intros.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Gentlemen, we do have a lot of hockey to talk about today, but we also have some virtual hockey to talk about today. And we were talking about it just moments before we started recording. And you know what? It's at the forefront of our minds anyway. So let's kick off the new year and talking about how disappointed we are in NHL 24.
Well, not as a whole. We're just disappointed that we cannot all play franchise mode together. And we got so close last night. We can get two people, but that's it.
Yeah.
What the fuck keeps? Why? It was a thumbs up. Why is balloons coming?
Can you give another? Hold on. So for those who listen to this podcast, this is now 2 episodes in a row where on the video side, Sin has just randomly had this balloon effect.
I thought it was a thumbs up last time.
Is it? Can you do another thumbs up?
I don't know.
Nope, that's how it didn't work.
Like what?
There is something that you do that is triggering a rising balloon effect for your webcam. We can't figure it out.
It's got to be through Zencaster because
it's so funny.
It's amazing. Weird. It's amazing. Anyway, it's funny because those balloons will also be used when we celebrate the day that we have a connected franchise or something that allows us to play franchise mode together in the modern titles. Now, for those who have followed what we have done, the 3 of us collectively, because really the core of it alongside Monkey Dude and Davos, the friendos of the Twitch side of things, of course. What we have done in the past is used emulation on my PC, which if you think it's piracy, I own copies of every game I play through emulation anyway, so fuck yeah, they got my money. We used an emulator on the PC, and then there is a program called Parsec that essentially allows the fellas to mimic as if they are sitting on the couch right next to me with a controller attached to the console, even though Endo is in fucking Toronto and Sin's on the other side of the country from me.
Beautiful.
That led to us doing the NHL 2K10 playthrough with the Ottawa Senators, which is up, I think that was on the second channel, an upload for that, where we played through a full 82-game season. And did we make the playoffs? I don't know. You're going to have to watch it to find out. But we had an absolute blast with that. And we wanted to wait until after the holiday season to start that kind of idea again. And we were like, okay, do we go back to 2K10? Or maybe we go to an older EA NHL title to see, like, hey, how much fun can we have with this? And last night, we tested out NHL Legacy Edition, which was essentially NHL 16 just on the prior gen, right? Because by the time NHL 16 came out on the Xbox One and the PS4, they were just put out a game and see if we get extra sales mode on the previous gen.
Yeah.
But we had a hell of a lot of fun last night. We did. Legacy, even in terms of position locking and playing against the AI, is still very fun. Shockingly fun. We lost our first 3 games. I'm pretty sure.
No, we won the first and lost. Oh, you mean I thought you were mentioning the tournament. But yeah. We lost the first 3 that we played and play now.
Yeah, and then we started essentially the Olympics and chose Team Finland and made it what we thought was a group stage turned out to just be
deciding seeding.
We didn't play it at all.
Sweating for no reason. Oh my god.
Oh god, nothing like drama that's not actually drama, and it turns out no, you were going to get the same result no matter what. Yeah. But we had a blast with that game, and we've talked about now moving to potentially trying out other games as well from the era. maybe we stick with Legacy. Maybe we go back to 2K10 and do a full playthrough on that. And the reason why we're looking at that option is because in NHL 24, it is not possible for me to be in franchise mode and to invite Sin, Endo, and company to, to play within those games, to position lock, and then, hey, we do the same thing just on the modern games. It's not possible. We were close-ish last night, as Sin referred to, and Endo had tweeted about this earlier today. The idea was thrown out in chat. What if you use the Xbox remote play option on your PC? And then through Parsec, would it allow you multiple controllers? And the answer to that was no. It did allow us one extra controller. So essentially, I had my controller plugged into my Xbox, and then because Parsec was up, it allowed Sin to control the PC controller, even though I didn't have one plugged in. It was recognizing inputs. So we were able to get two people to play NHL franchise mode together, but no more than that, at least at the moment, which is the biggest cocktail.
Yes, because we went into it, we're like, okay, we're not going to get our hopes up. This isn't going to work in any way. But then it worked with two. And we're like, oh, there has to be a way then. There has to be a way. But I stayed up till like 3 a.m. after we stopped, because we stopped at 1 a.m. And I stayed up till 3 a.m. trying to look online at stuff. And I'm sure Tougie did as well. Like,
yes, sir.
and like, it just sucks because like you get that close, even though you go into it without hopes, you get that close. You're able to get to possible content for like a duo franchise, sure, but you get that, you get your foot in the door. You want to be invited in, and it's tough. Like, there's no way to like do remote connection to the Xbox either, right? It just has to be local.
Yeah, it was speculated as to whether or not, like, okay, if we were to do the thing where it's like, I give Sin my login info and make his Xbox my home Xbox, and then he does the same, and my Xbox is his home Xbox, but then Endo's is this, and then, like, would there be a way to make that work? But it's unfortunately not possible right now. It's just the way that, like, the Xbox remote play feature is set up, as Endo mentioned on stream last night. It's designed for just one controller at
which
the
is
moment.
dumb.
So, man, we tried. We tried so hard, and I want that to be a thing so badly. The talk of GM Connected coming back, or just a connected franchise, whatever. It's something that we've talked about for years, just the idea of the content potential. I feel like a lot of people view connected franchise as like, oh, it would have to be like me versus Sin and versus Endo, but it's like, no, it gives you the option to play on the same team together. And with the ideas that we've done already on 2K10, like we weren't able to finish that particular run, but we controlled the Sharks and did a fantasy draft. And, it's like, okay, well, I'm position locked to center, so I'm probably going to look for centers. But then, this really freaking good defenseman still left. Am I going to be selfish and take a center for me, or am I going to take the defenseman for the better of the team? And it was just a really fun time, and there's so much potential.
Yeah.
And even though, for example, with 2K10 or NHL Legacy Edition, we're playing against the AI, that's really not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like that can be a satisfying enough experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be at least for us, the online competitive sweatfest that a lot of people are just like, nope, if it's not this and it's not the best versus the best of all, I don't want it. I don't mind playing against the AI, especially too, you can customize them to make them more difficult. That's part of the fun, is to make them overpowered as shit and still beat them. That's a big part of the fun. But yeah, that whole thing has just been on my mind all day today, at the end of last night too, and like Sin mentioned, don't be surprised if you see us kind of do some of that type of 2-player franchise content for 24, just as almost a proof of concept. To be like, EA, please, for the love of God, can we at least get the feature to invite friends to play games within franchise mode? I should be able to go to the franchise, to the lobby, hit play a game, and then invite Sin, invite Endo, invite 5 friends so we can do a full position lock thing. That needs to be possible, even if it means like, okay, well, yeah, you're not getting GM Connected's back, but you get like this little feature about it. That still opens up so many possibilities.
And I just realized we have perfect assets to use in the thumbnail too. Remember our little photo shoot in at assembly when we're in suits? Fucking, that's the dual GM right there. Holy fuck! Oh my god.
Allow me to send a DM to a certain Finn saying, hey, I need those pictures. I think he sent those to us recently. I need to...
yeah, he did send a
That's
few,
hilarious.
But...
Oh, yeah, I have them right here. Hold on. I will... I will put this up on the video portion of the podcast here. And for those who do not watch on the video portion, well, you're missing out. Give me 1 second here to there we go. You guys should be able to see that.
Holy shit.
What a baller.
There's some other good ones there too, I'm sure. But that one's funny as fuck.
There are. So good times ahead, I would say, one way or another, even if we don't exactly have what we want right now. But Sin, you mentioned it, the term proof of concept of just like, here's the possibilities, here's the fun that can be had. Like, I'm not asking for the wheel to be reinvented right now. It's like, just give us a little bit more creative freedom to do some things and something to to distract me from having to work on custom rosters and realizing how bad they are and how long it takes to edit their rosters, because that's gotten to the point where I'm just like, I'm almost giving up type of thing. NHL 24, the last week of 2023 wasn't great. We played EASHL once and I almost put my fist through my desk because the game played so poorly that night in terms of pickups and everything. And then I've been continuing on with the roster editing process, and if I wasn't like 40% of the way through, if I was at like 15 or 20%, I'd just drop it at this point. Like, it's taking so long just to get through the NHL, because as we joked about on the last show, Sin, right, with like the ratings and face-off ratings for guys on the Sharks and stuff like that, it's abysmal. And as it is, like we mentioned the Sharks, I actually got around to editing the Sharks, and Nico Sturm had like a 77 when he has like a 60% win percentage this season.
Yeah, I think it was like around 80 actually, but still, like, if he has 66% win, it should be 85 plus. Like,
yeah. So it's just it's been a rough time in that regard, to the point where it's like, okay, if they don't fix the roster stuff, I am looking at not roster editing anymore moving forward. It's just way too time consuming. While I haven't fully announced everything yet, I have kind of hinted towards like, hey, I'm going to have some changes to the content this upcoming year. I want to get back to making retrospective stuff. The EA versus NHL Cold War series that I had and stuff like that. Like, I really want to get back to making those because, one, they're fun to make. It allows a little bit more kind of creativity, and it just scratches a different itch as a creator. And a lot of the time that I put into roster editing could go to that. So, like, the time trade-off just isn't worth it, even though roster editing makes franchise mode more fun for me, makes my content different than everyone else's. Like, it's just that trade-off isn't worth it unless they fix that system. So now it's like, all right, well, here's a new thing I'll ask for, and please, God, give this to me, because we didn't, it doesn't look like we're getting the roster changes. So can I get this nice thing, please, to keep me distracted and entertained? Or I don't know where I'm going to be at for modern NHL content. But
it's not just you. One of my bosses that I used to work at, I used to work at a wine store when I was like 18, 19, fresh out of college, was like, fuck, I need to go into the workforce. So I dropped out, and my boss was like, "Hey, do you play NHL?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love NHL. It's a great. I love playing with friends." He said, "Do they still have GM Connected?" This is like 19, so like NHL 17, 18 era. He's like, "Do they still have GM Connected where you can like invite your friends and everything and play online?" He's like, "No, they got rid of GM Connected." It's like, well, like that was how he used to like stay in touch with his like relatives and play NHL. You know, just have conversations, run a franchise team, and do that. They use GM Connected as like a co-op franchise mode, like what we're trying to do. So it's not as if we're trying to think of a new concept here at all either. Like we've used the program, we've used like previous games, non-EA affiliated, to like get stuff to work. Now we're doing it with an EA affiliated game, and now it seems like some eyes have definitely been like, you know, some eyes and ears are leaning in a little bit more and seeing if the concept itself is actually, you know, not viable, but if it's fun. Because if it's fun, out of one thing, I think developers themselves would put a bigger push towards it. Because I think they'd rather do something more in the gameplay aspect or feature with gameplay than fix a roster thing that like maybe like 5, 10, 20 people in comparison complain about. Unfortunately.
It's fair.
Yeah.
It is fair to vocalize it that way. It's fair. Gentlemen, with that, anything else on the topic or
Nope. I think we covered it.
I'm just a sad boy now.
It makes me sad, man.
I ended the last show of 2023 as a sad boy, as Sin and I got to talk when Endo disconnected. Sin and I got to have that conversation about why did hockey in 2023 feel so meh, and we talked about how so many real world events and the toxicity and the conversation surrounding that seeps into the NHL, and it's just like, it's not escapism anymore. And now we talk about how a form of escapism in the video game side of things is also letting me down. So we're off to a great start. But with that, we will move on. We got a couple of viewer questions here and a lot of hockey topics to talk about, as we mentioned from just the past week alone. But let's kick things off with Pens fan, who asks, in all reality, I don't know what, okay, out of Thatcher Demko, Alex Nedeljkovic, and Lukas Dostal, which of them has shocked you guys the most this year? Now, this is obviously brought up in the aftermath of the Leafs-Ducks game last night, which the Leafs did win 2-1 in overtime. Austin Matthews gets the winner, 30th goal of the season. But the story of the game was Dostal, who was insane. He made 55 saves, which is a franchise high for the Ducks. And despite... Endo, did you see the Toronto Sun headline about Lukas Dostal?
Yeah, I saw it. I don't pay attention to the Toronto Sun because they're a bunch of hacks, and Steve Simmons doesn't deserve a job at all. I mean, you know what? The Toronto Sun is out of all the articles, newspapers in Toronto, they are the one who like legitimately they don't care about how you get clicks, but you get clicks. That's all they care about.
True.
That's other places, but yeah.
Their headline was essentially calling Lukas Dostal a no-name goalie. And even the Duck social media team on Twitter clapped back. And it's like, he was rookie of the month. You're fucking idiots. And yeah, correct. Dostal has been very, very solid for the Ducks this season. His play led to a lot of conversation about like, oh shit, John Gibson, is he a little bit more expendable now? Now that said, he's on a bad team, and in terms of base numbers, and again, goals against average, save percentage, not everything, but it is a 3.53 goals against average and a 901 save percentage, right? Like, this isn't a guy who's competing for the Vezina this season. In terms of his goals saved above expected as well, negative 0.9. So it's not as if this is a guy who's like, oh my God, future Vezina candidate. I mean, maybe, but it was an incredible performance last night. So has he necessarily like shocked me with how he's playing? Up until last night, no, because that's not the level of play that he's showcased this season, essentially. If anything, I'm more shocked about the Leafs goaltending situation and how Ilya Samsonov was sent down to the AHL.
Yes, that's great.
Two Leafs
we
goalies,
talked about this for
essentially.
a quick second.
Campbell and Samson.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! Yeah,
It's like the three worst guys in the three worst goaltenders in the league all got sent down through waivers at one point. Like basically last month, this month. It's crazy.
Who's the third one?
Was the goalie for the Buffalo Sabres? Can't remember who it was.
Was it
Yeah.
Levi at the time?
I mean,
geez,
Levi.
who it was?
Levi's
He got
just
sent down-
young. I wouldn't call him
Yeah.
bad.
Hold
So
on.
okay, so a couple things here, right? Really quickly, and we'll talk about the worst goalies in a second. In regards to Nedeljkovic, by the way, for Pittsburgh, he has a .924 save percentage and a goal saved above expected of 7.7.
I'd say he's the one who shocked me the most because
Yeah.
that's just
Eric
shown
Comrie.
that he's had it. Like Thatcher Demko has shown that he's had it.
Yes. And surprise, surprise, like he is a big part of the reason as to why the Canucks are in the conversation of best team in the NHL. Demko this season, .917 percentage, save percentage, goal saved above expected, 11.1. But in the past for Demko, last season, just going off a goal saved above expected, last season was a negative 2.8. Season before that, 14.9, 8.2. Nedeljkovic, prior to this season, negative 4.4. And then his first season in Detroit, after Carolina traded him, negative 11
Yeah.
in terms of goals saved above expected. Atrocious, obviously. Looking at this season, though, and talking about Ilya Samsonov, he had an .862 save percentage in 15
Jesus.
appearances with the Leafs. A 3.94 goals against average. And a goal saved above expected of the negative 15.42.
Oh,
Yeah,
That
he's got the
is
yips.
only the second worst
unusable.
GSAA this season, by the way.
Uh-oh.
The worst, Antti Ranta.
Oh.
15 games, .855 save percentage, and a negative 15.98 GSAA.
Who also got sent on waivers, who was supposed to go, you're supposed to go to an AHL affiliate, but Carolina doesn't have an AHL affiliate, so they had to come to terms individually to send him down over there. Because if it wasn't for that, he'd get sent down to the East Coast Hockey League, because that's the direct affiliate they'd have. Or they'd have to loan him out to a different team. Also, the goalie I was talking about was Eric Comrie, who has a .863 save percentage and averages 4.01 goals against.
Yeah, but has he ever really been a starter?
Sabres. Yeah.
Yeah, not really. He played
Yeah.
7 games
Third
this
string.
year. Yeah. For the record, the worst goalies in terms of GSAA, Ranta, Samsonov, Arvid Soderblom on Chicago, but I mean, fuck's sake, he's on Chicago. He's been bad, but I mean, everyone's been bad. Vitek Vanacek is in fourth for New Jersey.
Yeah.
And then in fifth, Mackenzie Blackwood, which is a little bit surprising because at the start of the year, it was like, shit, man, he's playing really well. And he wasn't able to hold on,
You
basically.
can only weather the storm so long in San Jose. Yeah, he's kind of fallen off.
Yeah. So other goalies in that mix, by the way, Jonas Korpisalo on Ottawa. Ooh.
Yeah.
Philip Grubauer still in the conversation for one of the worst goalies in the league for Seattle, which is brutal. We'll be talking about some positives for Seattle shortly, but yeah, to answer the initial question, I think it has to be Nedeljkovic out of those three who's actually
100%.
done well. I wouldn't even. The funny thing is, though, then you can get into the conversation of like who's the most surprising goalie. Do you guys know who is leading the NHL right now in GSAA?
Trying to think. I got nothing.
36-year-old starter for the Los Angeles Kings, Cam Talbot.
Wow.
Cam Talbot is leading the way right now, which is shocking, honestly.
Good for him. Good for him, though.
He's turning the clock back. By the way, fourth place, just to be like I said, fourth place. Aiden Hill for the Vegas Golden Knights because Stanley Cup champion Aiden Hill.
Mm-hmm. Fourth round pick, Aiden Hill. Well, worth a fourth round pick, whatever. You know what I mean,
right? Well, it's funny about the Sharks. Then I'm gonna go a little bit out of order for what we had here because I feel like there's a good kind of a twist to take to this. I saw a Bleacher Report list of what was each team's New Year's resolution. And I wanted to know if you guys agreed with what they put for each of our favorite teams.
Sure.
And for the San Jose Sharks, draft Macklin Celebrating.
Yeah, but 25% at best is your chance to do that. Luckily, there's Yzerman as well, and he looks pretty fucking good. But Celebrini, I think, is the prize.
Yeah, I mean,
and
again,
God, I want it so bad, and if I don't get it, Chicago cannot have it. Fuck me, that'll be just so disgusting. I know, but it's just how they can't keep getting away with this.
Oh God, Macklin Celebrini, by the way, 8 points in 5 games for Canada at the World Juniors as a 17-year-old. He doesn't turn 18 until June, so it's a good draft. But yeah, he does appear to be potentially the gem of it, certainly. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, they listed get past the second round.
So funny.
I mean, it was perfect to end it right
You're
there.
not wrong.
You didn't have to say it. And for the Boston Bruins, they listed get a first line center.
Get a job.
Which, fair, but
how dare you? How dare you insult, according to Cap Friendly's lines right now, Morgan Geeky like that?
Oh, it's not even freaking Zaka. Oh my God.
So the Bruins lines on Cap Friendly are listed as Zaka, Geeky, and Pasternak on the top line.
Fuck, if you get a 1C, I mean, you're already first in the NHL.
Are they still?
Yeah, based on points and points percentage.
Fuck me, I didn't realize.
23, 7, and 6.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, God. I don't think Patrice Bergeron's coming out of retirement. He seems to be enjoying retirement quite well. Oh God, we'll be talking about that more in the next month or so in terms of like, oh, who could the Bruins get? I think the biggest name out there is still Elias Lindholm. Even then, I don't think you ideally. If Elias Lindholm's your number one center, it's not bad, but it's still not what most people would call the true number one center.
Yeah, he's more of a 1B.
Right. I think if he's the David Krejci. If you can have David Krejci as your 2C behind somebody even better, you're a contender. That's what the Bruins had last year with Bergeron and Krejci. I just don't see what player would possibly be out there to be like, yes, this legitimate 1C. We joked about, for like all of last year, about Tomas Hertl. He re-signed with the Sharks until 2030.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot of cap to take on for you guys, and we'd want a heck of a return, which you guys don't really have.
Draft picks and a couple of people in the mix, right? Like, you talk about a trade like that, it would be Matt Poitras, it would be Mason Lohrei, somebody of that.
Jeremy Swayman.
I won't blame you for never giving up on that.
No,
that's what you should hope for.
So good. He's so fucking good. Ugh.
Second in the NHL in terms of goal saves, above average, by the way, for Jeremy Swayman.
Makes sense.
Talbot, so, yeah, I don't know. I could rack my brain about what center would possibly be available. But even now, as I'm looking on NHL.com and the list of top scoring centers, Steven Stamkos hasn't re-signed in Tampa yet. I don't see that happening, though. We could finally Don Sweeney could rectify his biggest mistake of all time and trade for Matt Barzal.
I thought it was the Mitchell Miller signing.
Okay, his second biggest mistake.
Gotcha.
Fair enough. We like to forget about that as much as we can, because Jesus Christ, what an embarrassment that was.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget. I'll never forget.
Never. We mentioned, kind of in passing there, two different aspects of future topics we're going to cover, but I think we'll go back on track with what we had kind of on our run sheet here. And that was our second viewer question, which comes from One Sister Christian Cage. In honor of the debut of the PWHL this past week, which cities would you want to see the PWHL expand to in years to come? And I feel like this is a really good opportunity to talk about the opening week of the league's season. Because if you've listened to our show in recent months, it will come as no surprise to any of you that we were incredibly worried about this league heading into the season, and I would say justifiably so. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of concerning aspects of the league, whether it be where the hell are these teams going to practice? Where the hell are these teams going to play? What the hell are these teams going to be named? Where the hell can I watch the games? Now that we are at least a game into the season for each team, and there's been a lot of positivity, like it's easier to feel better about the league right now. There's still some concerns about the future. You know, is it still the best thing to head into this league with your teams being PWHL New York, PWHL Minnesota? Probably not. But they got some wins this week. The on-ice product has been very entertaining. I would chalk that up to them being like, play physical hockey. Let's go. Go ahead. And you've had the skill level on display as well, pretty much out of the gates in regards to some of these bigger players. Boston played Minnesota last night in the first game for each of those two teams. And Minnesota ended up winning that game, but it was really cool because the number one overall pick in the PWHL draft, I believe it's Taylor Hasey, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Sorry for the pronunciation there. But she scored the first goal for Minnesota. And it was a pretty nice shot, too. So, the on-ice product has been good. The crowds have been decent as well, between 3,000 and almost 9,000 people for games, which is fucking awesome. And perhaps the most important thing, you can actually watch the fucking games. Because every game is aired on their YouTube channel for free, and you can watch it. There's no blackouts. There's no nothing. Like, yes, it's on television, depending on the market that you're in, but you can actually watch the goddamn games. It's accessible. Compared to the NHL, where I saw somebody mention I think they were in Ottawa or something, and they were having trouble watching the Sens Canucks game from that night. For as many of the ass backwards approaches that we talk about for the NHL, the PWHL has a lot of positive momentum right now, when I think a lot of people were like, oh, God, don't let this be a disaster. And I think that's a big part of it, too, right? Is people are willing this on to just be like, fuck the shortcomings. We want this to work. Please, God, let this work. Let's do what we can to make this work.
Yeah.
That's the reason why like half the teams have, like, all the teams don't have actual uniforms, like individual identifiable uniforms and everything, because the players wanted to play. There have been several interviews that they've had where they've like, we wanted to play, and we wanted to play a physical game. They wanted to find referees. I know Sayora Tinker, who is a former PHF player, and I believe also a national team player as well.
Yep.
She retired and is now a commentator working with, I believe, CBC, and also covering, women's hockey and everything. And she said that when they were putting the league together, they wanted to essentially have players be able to have contact and do certain things. And I remember in the All-Star game, they talked about, why do women's hockey players usually wear cages and everything? Because they don't get dental coverage. And don't get certain things on the same way as well, which is hilarious as well. Now that, under certain agreements, they have benefits, they're getting paid essentially the same amount of money as an ECHLer to an AHLer to play on their set teams. They have money, they have the coverage, they have the per diem, they have everything that makes them finally legitimate hockey players.
Right.
And now, with the advanced rule book that they've now introduced, not only including physical play with two players contending for the puck, you're going to rarely see open ice hits like hip checks and all that stuff. You'll see it. You might see it later on in the season, but you saw from like the first game of the Toronto versus New York game, which typically Toronto lost because that's big games like that Toronto always loses. Just Toronto sports kind of thing, and just throwing the body hits into the stanchions, into the boards. They're like, the girls want to play physical hockey. It's that the rule set that they were following in other leagues in North America didn't allow them to do that. If you look at the SHL, the Women's Swedish Hockey League, they have contact. They have full hitting and all that, and they go through it and everything. It's that over here in North America didn't want to do it. If you watch a rivalry series game with Canada versus the US, there's contact. There was tons of contact because they specifically said, we want to be able to be physical in these games, and they get physical. Anytime you watch Canada versus US, even back to 2010 in Vancouver, that was a physical-ass game. That was a huge game. It was physical as well, too. So it was all about getting the rule book set up and adjusted and everything. God, I feel nasally. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
In regards to the PWHL as well, there was a thread that I had seen on Reddit yesterday, on the R Hockey subreddit, where someone asked, stupid question, why is the PWHL hyped up so much more than any previous women's league? What are they doing differently? And the top response on that thread, I thought, summed this up perfectly. In terms of the pros, you have a super billionaire owner. Essentially, there is more money funding this league than ever before. The con, essentially, is that, well, the entire league and all the teams are owned by that same ownership group that has the funding. They mentioned other pros in regards to, like, hey, all the best players are here, reasonable salary, so on and so forth. But there was someone else who responded to that top comment with, I thought was a very interesting point. I don't know for sure if there's truth to it, but it could be. It makes sense. In terms of the idea of the ownership of the PWHL essentially being one group, the person responded saying, well, what if that ownership group is using this first season as their proof of concept, and then instead of branding their teams this year, you're hoping that by showing, hey, this is what it is, you're then going to sell those franchises to owners next year who can put their own spin on what they want that team to be, and they're going to have to pay a hell of a lot more after season one if it's a big success than they would have boughting into a new property. And if that's what they're doing, if that's why they backed out, which I don't know if that quite lines up because we had all those rumored team names and stuff like that, so I still think there might be a little bit more credence to the idea of, like, there was negative backlash towards the names that were proposed. But if that's what they're doing and they end up, being like, hey, Ryan Reynolds, you want to buy the Ottawa women's team and name it the Deadpools? Come on down. That'd be pretty damn good for the league, too, in terms of financial stability.
And also, if this billionaire is pretty savvy, he would have purchased just copyrights because they're not that expensive, and then leaked them and be like, all right, let's see what people think. Like, that's the easiest, focus group type thing to do, is just leak buy some fucking copyrights, because if you're a billionaire, they're nothing. And
I will say, with the names, they should do what the CWHL did with their names. have teams that are affiliated with them use something that's very similar for their names. So Toronto, go back to the Furies. Let's say Ottawa, go back to the whatever they had before. They didn't have a team before, but kind of thing. I will say for teams to expand off of in the future, I would love for. Oh, this would be a perfect opportunity for the PWHL to kind of be a quote unquote test market for the NHL teams. People want a team in Salt Lake City. Put a Salt Lake PWHL team there. You want Houston? Maybe possibly in the future expand out. I think what they have to do for this league is not expand too quickly. I think the first couple years is going to be, just the original 6 or
consolidate.
The original women's 6, whatever the fuck, just the original 6 teams. And from there, bring in 2 teams, bring in something there, go here and there, maybe collaborate with, former teams that were, former regions that used to have a team in like the PWHF or the NWHL and, work something out that way. So that way those teams can not necessarily come back, but you can put a team in a location that's kind of close to there. I think it's good that the locations for the teams are very, very close by in terms of proximity with travel and everything. So you save a little bit more. So that way when your league becomes more profitable, you can, expand out that way. I think it's going to mostly stay like mid to like East Coast is where it's going to be for a couple, maybe like 10 years or so. Then maybe expand out after. You don't want to go too big too fast.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for them right now is just, you don't want to... Like, you need to prove that this is sustainable, because if you do, then the player pool will naturally grow. More women will choose to be like, oh, okay, I can actually pursue a career in professional hockey, as opposed to being like, well, I play it in college, but that's I'm going to pursue my degree as opposed to this professional career.
Right.
Eventually, that player pool will grow, the talent level will grow, which will necessitate the growth of the league, rather than growing the league and hoping that the player pool continues to develop, because then you run the risk of diluting your product, essentially, where it's just like, you won't be able to blame the talent level of it. It's just, it is what it is based on the structure of women's hockey so far, especially in North America. If you add in 4 teams within the next 2 seasons, you're going to end up with a lot more lower level talent in the league. That's just the reality of it. And you want to make sure that right now you are highlighting the best of the best. That is the best way to sell this to people right now is, okay, this is what it is.
I will say the best suggestion they could do after this season or a couple seasons, you invite like a top team from the women's SHL. You invite a team from the ZHL, which is the Russian affiliate, and Russian like women's hockey league over there. You invite them, and you have something kind of like a Memorial Cup kind of thing, where the teams play each other. They have a round robin. One team goes to the top and do something like that. Have something where you have the best professional women's teams in the world playing against each other. Something like that could grow it as well too. Not only just for here in domestic markets, but also internationally, to see that, women's hockey is international in a way that's not just, playing for your country. You play for the city, you play for the region in a country as well.
In regards to the ownership group as well, I wanted to mention it. It is the Mark Walter Group. That includes the co-owner of the LA Dodgers, Mark Walter, his wife, Kimbra, as well as tennis legend Billie Jean King. Mark Walter, American businessman and the CEO of Guggenheim Partners, a privately held global financial services firm with more than $325 billion in assets under management. To have Mark Walter obviously involved in that, being the CEO of a company that's that goddamn big, this guy's fucking loaded. I believe that's the technical term, the medical term, fucking loaded.
He spent $1 billion this offseason on 2 Japanese baseball players. I'm pretty sure he has enough money for 6 teams, 6 women's hockey teams that are, operating in arena sizes between 2,600 and 8,000. He can make it happen. By the way, that is hilariously undersized for PWHL Toronto, who sold out, and they basically had a packed house. They had 60 empty seats, but it was a whole full packed house. I tried to get tickets to go with Polina's dad before he left to go back home to Russia. Because like, hey, we already saw Marley's game. You saw your daughter play. Here's the brand new women's league that just kind of was here. Come watch that, and it was sold out. And so they need to upgrade to a bigger arena. The biggest arena they can upgrade to is Coca-Cola Coliseum, which seats 8,100 people can sit Coca-Cola Coliseum. And that's the only upgrade they can really do besides Scotiabank Arena. That's like 20,000.
I think just keep selling shit out right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think don't try again. It's back to that. Don't try to grow too fast. Just keep selling shit out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really relevant topic for me as a wrestling fan. I've talked about AEW a bit on the show here and there. Obviously, since I'm a huge wrestling fan, so it's not something that comes up a ton. But that is a company that's 5 years old now, where one of the biggest controversies for them of 2023 was that they would charge quite a bit for ticket prices when tickets would first go on sale. So ticket sales would look kind of weak. But then in the last week or so, the prices would drop, and then they'd get thousands of people at their shows.
Yeah.
It's one of those things right now where it's like, that's not the best look. Like, what you want is for tickets to be dirt cheap and for as many people to show up as possible. And that is what the PWHL needs right now, is for these buildings, even if they're smaller, to be fucking packed and loud for every single game. And as it stands, Endo mentioned Toronto. I saw people being like, yeah, but how well are they really doing type of thing, like in terms of like making money, or like, are people really buying jerseys right now? The Toronto PWHL team's jerseys are sold out on their website right now. They're the only one of the 6 teams that have a sold out jersey set at the moment. And for other teams, for Boston, there are only youth sizes left for Boston replica jerseys, because I looked and I was going to get one. They are essentially sold out of adult sizes.
You can squeeze into a youth.
Yeah. That guy in a little coat.
I was referencing your height, but
Fair enough. Ottawa sold out with everything except for youth sizes. New York sold out for everything except youth sizes. Montreal, they were still working on getting the jerseys set up, so Montreal jerseys are available. And Minnesota, well, if you wear a medium or a small, you are in luck. Damn. Aside from that, it is just youth sizes. This league's doing very well out of the gates. And again, I don't think people were wrong to react to like some of the news that was coming out, because it's like, oh god, some of this does seem rushed. But it is amazing how quickly things can change. And I think a big part of that too is just people want this league to fucking succeed.
Yeah, I didn't get to tune into a game, but I got massive FOMO hearing everyone talk about the first week. So I'm definitely making it a point to catch some games, and I got to choose a favorite team.
Yeah,
because I'm not waiting until they expand to California. That could be fucking years.
This Friday, New York and Toronto, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Saturday, Montreal and Minnesota at 2:30 p.m. Central are the 2 games coming up this weekend for the PWHL. So again, their YouTube channel is where you can find every game, which is incredible. And I hope they continue that even once it's like, okay, we get a bigger TV deal or whatever. It's like, make the game accessible. It has to be.
I'm going to toss him a sub right now if I can. There we go.
There you go. And
I can watch VODs, of course. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the replays are up there too.
The games is all 3 games on the YouTube side of things have over 100K views.
Oh yeah, I just see that now. That's great. Fan-fucking-tastic.
That's a good start for the league.
Very, very good. Yeah. I was gonna say too, and in terms of like, okay, that future expansion talk, right? Because Endo mentioned the idea of like, okay, you could be the testing ground for the NHL with like Salt Lake City, stuff like that. Obviously too, I think you want to capitalize in the future on proven markets, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure based on who they're looking at, you would want a team in Chicago. And I think Chicago would be great. Like, honestly, if I'm the Wirtz family, I would be first in line to be like, yes, we would like, you know, the Blackhawks, the women's team, basically. You know, we'll see if they slap Sacagawea's face on the jersey. What? You gonna tell me I'm wrong?
Oh God.
Took me a second, not gonna lie.
God damn it.
You're funny.
There's a lot of crossover potential between the NHL teams that are already established, and there is some already too. Like for the PWHL Boston team, they named Hillary Knight captain. Patrice Bergeron was the one to kind of show up and be like, "Hey, here's your new captaincy jersey" and stuff like that, which is really cool. There is a lot of potential here. A New York team that actually plays in New York would probably be beneficial.
Also, shout out to the goaltender for New York. I don't even know her goddamn name. I know Polina was telling me. She was the starting goalie for Polina's her prep team when she was back up on Morrill Hall. Like, she was starting goalie, and she's the reason why Polina sat out the entire season. So yeah, shout outs to you. Congratulations.
Corinne Schroeder.
Yep. She went to Balmoral Hall for, high school. And yeah, congrats to her. First shutout in PWHL, and you're the reason why my fucking fiance quit hockey for 5 years. So fuck you. No, I'm joking.
I like how you had to go full Pierre. It's like, oh yeah, she played college hockey here.
Yeah.
Oh, former goaltender for the Boston Pride, by the way. Which I still have that jersey, and hopefully, whenever I get a PWHL jersey, hopefully it's the last freaking women's league jersey I have to get instead of like, yes, here's the new one. So, yeah. Anyway.
The new league. That's a federation.
Oh, dude, the PHF. What a terrible fucking decision that was to rebrand to the Premier Hockey Federation.
And their socials for the longest time were still nwhl.zone because they didn't want to lose the cop. They didn't want to lose it for that. It was bad, dude. It was bad. The Toronto 6 was actually a funny thing about this. The social media manager for the Toronto 6 came out and announced basically like, hey, yeah, so the 6 was already finalized as a team name. 100% finalized. I'm like, yeah. It kind of grew on you a little bit, but like if they had I feel like if they had a Drake affiliation, that would have been sick, but they didn't really have a Drake affiliation, so it's kind of like we're just called the 6.
Thank God they didn't have a Drake affiliation, though. I could.
Someone said that the reason why the PHF got sold was because a Toronto team won the league, and they said that was not right. It's not supposed to happen.
The whole thing of... Did you see the fucking Drake Bieber response on Instagram?
No.
Justin Bieber went to a Leafs game with his wife, and Drake's like, why didn't you invite me to look at the puck bunnies? He is... he's incredibly successful, and I give him credit for that. But Aubrey, grow the fuck up, dude. You are 37 years old.
To quote his son in his song, My Man Freestyle, don't talk to my man like that. I know I like it when you like it. My man. The
fuck did I come back to?
Oh, we're talking about how Drake got in his feelings because Justin Bieber went with his wife to a Leaf game. He's like, why didn't you invite me? Sad face. And I said, you know what? Don't talk to my man like that. I don't like it when you like that. My man, which is Drake's son, Adonis. The kid
I
had
heard
hid
all
from
that
the
part.
world instead of the world trying to hide from the kid. Adonis.
Appreciate
Graham.
the
Thank you.
play-by-play recap.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Yep, it's good.
My man.
It's fine though. Drake, even if he was invited, wouldn't have gone anyway. He'd be too busy chatting up underage girls on Instagram. That said, the Winter Classic took place on January 1st between the Seattle Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights. The battle of the NHL's two most recent teams in a game that Seattle won quite handily. I mean, 3-0 over the Golden Knights, the first ever shutout in a Winter Classic by one Joey Decord, who, speaking of the whole goal saved above average stat, has been one of the best goalies in the NHL this season. Good on the Kraken for maybe finding a goalie, given that it sure as shit wasn't going to be Philip Grubauer, as we mentioned a little bit earlier as well.
Shout out Joey Decord. I believe he is a Brampton Beast product as well, too. Yeah. Hey, I went to one of his games, okay? I believe he was with the Brampton Beast. He was!
I don't care.
Before they folded.
Fucking Pierre.
Right before they folded.
I don't care.
Brampton Beast product. 1920 season with the ECHL. 12 games played, 901 save percentage, 7-5-0. I'm going to go eat this corn dog.
Jesus.
Endo McGuire. Unbelievable.
Hey, I know my goalies, okay?
A lot of people have
goalies.
speculated Pierre is autistic, and you know what?
Are you sure?
I'm starting to believe now.
Speculate. My brother.
You know, even if he's just passionate, it doesn't make a difference, Pierre. We
You
love you.
heard the way he got excited about a double D on? Brother. Wha-bam! Wha-bam!
So, you notice how quickly the Winter Classic conversation changed, and that is because that was kind of the response to the game, is that it's okay, it's the Winter Classic, cool. And that's about what the Winter Classic is at this point. Except when we played it on Legacy last night, and we played the 2011 Winter Classic, and me as Sidney Crosby got headshotted and taken out of the game. It's a little bit too realistic for comfort.
OV headshot. It was hilarious. I mean, it was tragic. It was hilarious.
You know, the Winter Classic, we kind of talked about it. You know, it's like, hey, Sir Mix-a-Lot's there, and it's cool, but it's like that's who are you trying to appeal to type of thing. Again, I love Sir Mix-a-Lot. It's just the thing though, where you're talking about an artist in their 50s who was most popular 20, 30 years ago. When the hell did Baby Got Back come out? When did that come out? 1992.
When record scratches were still a thing in hip hop.
Dude, I wasn't alive when that song came out. And again, like, it's no disrespect to Sir Mix-a-Lot. The guy is a fucking legend. But he's 60 years old with his number one hit coming 32 years ago. You know, it's one of those things like, who are you marketing to in terms of like, yes, well, you know, Sir Mix-a-Lot's going to bring eyes to this. Like, I don't know who the answer would have been. Maybe it would have been Drake. Let him enjoy the Puck Bunnies.
Macklemore, man. Like, it's Seattle. He's right there.
And he still tours and does relatively well for himself. You know? So
just do Nirvana with Joan Jett just covering for, you know.
Okay, that actually would have been pretty cool, though.
That would have been sick.
Cool.
That actually
right there.
Pretty sick.
Done. Instantly. Why aren't I working with the NHL? Come on.
Well, because it's still a band that doesn't really appeal to the young crowd.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, honestly, Nirvana has reached the point where the Misfits were, where you can ask a kid who's wearing a Nirvana shirt, like, oh, do you like their songs? It's like, what do you mean? They just view it as a cool shirt, just like the Misfits shirt ended up becoming just a cool shirt.
I'm gonna be honest, I had a Misfits shirt, and I can name maybe 2 of their songs.
There you go. Case in point. And that's a lot of kids with Nirvana now, and that's fine, because again, Nirvana's peak was 30 years ago.
Foo Fighters.
They
had it. It could have been the Foo Fighters.
Again, it's still the problem of you're not appealing to the young crowd.
Right.
Hockey
Like,
Yeah, I
players
mean,
love Foo Fighters.
I'm sorry, Dave Grohl is a legend. He's not bringing in the young crowd.
right.
I think I broke
Macklemore
my
is
leg.
even still borderline, simply because his hits came out 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Here we
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah, let's see. Macklemore, in terms of his top songs,
What,
Can't Hold
what?
Us was 2012. Thrift Shop was 2012.
Mama,
Yeah.
mama,
I mean,
mama,
Legend.
mama.
Fucking
Talking
two
the same
songs and
thing.
is set for life, essentially.
Hey, he had
I give him
wings.
credit.
He had Same
give him
Love. Okay. He
Yeah,
had,
no, they were good. Like, no, he had good songs, but like,
had
all I'm saying
Downtown.
is, music is an incredible thing. Where it's like, if you just have a hit or two, you can be set for life.
Mhm.
Cha 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 guy is set for life. I saw him in so many commercials when I was in Finland.
Cha, cha, cha,
Mm.
cha, cha,
Like,
cha. Hey.
One song is all it takes. Yes, they have other stuff, but I'm saying is you get a hit and it's amazing. But he would have been better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Because of the Seattle connection and because his hits were more recent, and that music simply appeals to the younger crowd more. That's their jam.
Mhm.
They don't care
I'm
about
looking-
90s hip hop.
I'm looking at the top 50 songs USA playlist on Spotify, which gives
Oh,
you
Lord.
the most played tracks on Spotify right now.
Oh, TikTok.
I don't know if they're in a particular order or not. I believe they are, though. Number one is a Jack Harlow song that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't know who Noah Kahan is, but he's got the number 2 fucking song on Spotify right now in the US. Good for him. There's quite a few people on this list I have vaguely heard of or have never heard of.
Yeah.
And that is the point. Because even getting a band for me at 29 years old, where I'm like, yeah, that person, that's probably not the right demographic at that point, right? Like, you want to bring in the people that are listening to who the fuck is Mitski? Number 4 right now.
Wait,
Mitski.
is that the fucking? Is he the French guy?
Doesn't matter.
It's a lady. Regardless, it's just one of those things. Like, yeah, that general sense of like, okay, who are you appealing to? And the whole point of bringing this up was the idea that the ratings for this were not good. They had sports competition. Of course, it was on a Monday. You had college football games, but the ratings for the Winter Classic were not good this year. I believe it was the lowest rated Winter Classic in NHL's history since they started doing this in 2008. And in general, this comes from Sports Watch Media. In the history of the Winter Classic, it peaked in 2011 with Washington and Pittsburgh at 4.5 million people. It hit 4.4 in 2014, Toronto and Detroit. And since then has been on a pretty steady decline. And since leaving NBC, the last Winter Classic on NBC was Nashville and Dallas. Everybody wave at Corey Perry as he walks away. We won't know why he walked away, though. At 1.96 million viewers. Since then, 1.36 for St. Louis, Minnesota, 1.78 for Pittsburgh and Boston last year, and now this year was 1.1 million people. So
crazy.
And that's
it's not
across,
marketed well. Yeah.
That's across TNT and True TV. Obviously, NBC, when they would air these, would be on a bigger network, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's, TNT has the rights to it. I don't remember what the biggest channel would have been between Warner Brothers Discovery for what they could have aired it on. But regardless, the bloom has been off the rose for the Winter Classic for a really long time. And then you get this, and the aftermath of this is Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts saying, hey, guess who's probably getting the Winter Classic next year? Chicago again. Which, on one hand, is exhausting because Chicago has been involved in 3 Winter Classics.
Yep.
I think 3. Boston at Notre Dame in 2019. 2009 Detroit Wrigley Field, and then I feel like there was Washington in 2015, and that's just Winter Classics. 2017 St. Louis. I think it's 4, and they've had a Stadium Series game, if I'm not mistaken. It is 4 appearances. They're 0 for 4, by the way, are the Blackhawks in Winter Classics.
Love it.
They're a draw. I mean, and obviously they want to market Bedard, which is a good thing. Those are all good things. Yes. The biggest problem with the NHL when it comes to marketing is, especially feel like recently, they are trying to market to the crowd they already have, which is not what you should be doing. They try to cater to and market to the crowd that they currently have, and it seems like the really loud motherfuckers on social media. Like, that's the wrong way to go about it. Here's the thing. The crowd that you already have and the loud motherfuckers on social media, the reason why they're so loud and the reason why they're all bitching is because they're invested and because they're already watching everything and keeping up with everything. You need to market to the newer people, the young people. That's the future. You have to invest in the future. So when it comes down to the music choices and everything like that, how they market and how they, again, fail their young stars. I'm sure we'll talk about the incident with Cole Perfetti getting slashed in the face, and how they fail to protect them. Look, this is part of the same problem with the NHL when it comes to marketing and how they present their product. Yeah, is that they want to keep that old school thing. No one gives a shit. Wake up. People want to see high skill. Kids want to see high skill. That's just how it is. Look at the way the world's trending. Look how the NHL games are trending. That should tell you what the kids want. They want fast-paced, high-skill bullshit, which, is whatever. And that's just, like, you have to understand who the target audience, and I don't think the NHL understands who they need to target to continue to grow. Because at this point, it feels like they don't want to.
And if they do, I don't know if they know how to target younger kids and to market to younger kids, right? Because I think the balance,
they had that TikTok guy for a minute and he was like torn to shreds, and he made like one video anyway. Like, what? Yeah, I don't get it.
I think like the balance is you need to market to kids while then also appeasing the crowd that you already have in a way, right? And what I mean by that is the idea of like, if you have the diehards who are here where, we have a hockey podcast, I would consider us diehards. If you have the diehards where it's just like, ugh, the NHL right now, that's not good. That's not good. If you have diehards that do reviews like of every game, like a Steve Dangle, and a lot of his videos are like, what the fuck is officiating in the NHL right now?
Yep.
That's not good. You need that balance of the people you already have being as hyped up as they can be. There's always going to be people who bitch and complain about whatever, because that's the nature of it. And you're never going to have like a 100% track record with the Department of Player Safety or anything like that. You can do better than your 5% getting it right fucking percentage at the moment, though. You need to have that balance of the people that are already invested being hype as shit, while also marketing to a younger crowd to be like, look at how fucking cool this is. And they're not doing either. At least in our case, as diehard hockey fans, there's an argument that while I'm still interested and invested, really this could go for all three of us. This is probably the least interested and invested in the NHL that we have been in our adult lives. And that's the NHL's fault because of how they handle certain situations, including the Cole Perfetti thing, which we'll talk about in a minute, and what the fucking culture is, at least according to Jamal Mayers. It's all of that wrapped up into one big issue of like, just what the fuck is the NHL doing? And then that continues because Gary Bettman was interviewed during the Winter Classic. This was sometime before or after Paul Bissonnette dropped the people's elbow on Bowie, which again, you want to market to, people that's fun things to do. Gary Bettman said on TNT,
sold like a motherfucker. There you go.
Gary Bettman said on TNT moments ago that the league will announce a, quote, best on best in-season international tournament relatively soon. Who the fuck wants that? An in-season, because we got to copy the NBA, an in-season international tournament.
Just let us go to the Olympics.
Let the
Please.
go to the Olympics. Just fucking do it.
Like,
Man,
I don't know
the
why
only
they ever
way-
stopped. It was so good. So good watching those Olympics teams.
Like, yes, players can get hurt. Yes, you have to halt the season. But the marketing is worth it. The eyeballs that you get from Olympic Games are bigger than the eyeballs that you're going to get at any other time. It is worth the pause on your season. It is worth the risk of your star players getting hurt, your stars who want to be there, by the way.
Hey, guess what? PWHL has a mid-season stop to play the Women's World Cup, the Women's World Championship games. Perfect. Half the season is literally just stopped because that's when the Women's World Championships are going through. This is a perfect opportunity for the women to, let's say, for example, you weren't like a national team hopeful to make the national team. This is a perfect time to prove yourself. Or if you are like, you're a star player over there, this is a perfect time to like build up chemistry with players on your team who potentially could be playing for your country. Like, I don't get it. Drew Doughty is mad because he's getting snubbed again because he loves talking about how he's getting snubbed about being on Team Canada. Love it.
To me, the Winter Classic was just another reminder of like, yes, it's really cool, the atmosphere and everything like that. But it's just another reminder of a lot of the NHL's shortcomings right now. And there's a lot of those. And that was our big problem throughout 2023 is just like, Jesus Christ, like so many of these decisions that need to be made and conversations and the way that you conduct things are relatively obvious. And somehow you fall short. And it just gets to be kind of exhausting when it's like it shouldn't be difficult to be a hockey fan. It shouldn't be difficult to be like, okay, cool, the Olympics, as opposed to like the whole idea of like, oh, we don't want to go to the Olympics because the players might get hurt and we have to halt our season. The players might get hurt in this fucking in-season international tournament too.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, is it going to be like, oh, well, it's for money, so people will try like they did in the NBA?
If you're gonna get hurt, it's gonna be on my dollar, on my watch, on my coverage. Like, I don't get it.
It's just the NHL being the NHL, and I'm used to it at this point, but it doesn't mean that I have to accept it. you know, I'm used to it, but it doesn't mean we don't have to call it out for being just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Aside from the Winter Classic, a couple of other things here. I wanted to mention the All-Star format in terms of the NHL also being a bit ass backwards in the way that they're doing things. Tomorrow, the NHL will be announcing one representative from each NHL team for the All-Star game, with the remaining 12 players needed to be decided via fan vote, unless they're John Scott, in which case, fuck you, we're going to orchestrate a trade and send him to the minors. I cannot stand the whole one person per team thing. I get the idea of wanting to market and say, well, even the Sharks have an all-star this year. I get that. But then is it really it's the all-star game of one of every team as opposed to being the best of the best.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way.
I don't have too much energy to bitch and complain about this.
No.
It is what it is.
The same
been this way
thing
for a while.
Yeah. We've gone over it.
But it's just another aspect where it's just like, cool. So Tomas Hertl will probably be the guy for the Sharks at 28 points in 37 games. Maybe Mikhail Granlund?
It'll be Hertl. He's way more marketable.
And it's like, does that make a... So say, in this theoretical situation, you do... Well, actually, in a real-life situation, you root for the worst team in the NHL right now. But in the theoretical situation of, I'm going to watch the All-Star game, which you won't because it sucks. I'm not going to watch it either. Yeah. But in the theoretical situation of you're going to watch this game, what's more enticing to you? Seeing the best of the best at this point in the season going head to head, or seeing some of the best, but oh hey, Tomas Hertl, he wears my team's favorite jersey. He's there.
I would rather see the best of the best. That is an all-star game.
Like if I'm gonna spend money on overpriced tickets to this all-star game in Toronto, which by the way I'm not, because Jesus fuck. I don't feel like taking out a small loan just to see an all-star game that's not even actually an all-star game.
It is insane. I was talking to Johnny, aka the Oway, esports guy at MLSE. He was saying that it makes no sense if you're gonna buy tickets for the All-Star game in Toronto to do it, because that same amount of money you could probably just barely afford playoff tickets for the Leafs this year. Like, I remember Deke and Monk usually go to the All-Star games every year, and I am not going to be surprised if they skip out this year, because I think Deke ran like a $250 donation thing on stream for people to pay for his ticket to go, and that $250 got him like the entire weekend. That won't even get you into like the fan event in Toronto. It is insane.
The cheapest ticket on Ticketmaster right now for the All-Star game, Section 323, the
$400.
upper bowl of Scotiabank Arena, is $416 Canadian.
Jesus.
The best part about it, it's a part of the NHL experiences package. Something that I signed up for was, I'm like, I'll check out, see what other benefits they have. And it's like, oh, you get an arena tour. I'm like, I live here. I've seen Scotiabank Arena. I've played on Scotiabank Arena. I've seen everything that has to be inside that goddamn building. Maybe not like a few suites, but like there's nothing wrong. Oh, here's cement. Here's where the Leafs have lost historically since they moved into this building since 1999. Like, what?
And here's where James Reimer cried on the ice. It's beautiful.
Oh, man.
I had to bring that up at least just because it's going to be in the topic of conversation. But I do want to mention one fun NHL thing. A fun one, as opposed to one of the other kind of negative ones that we have coming up here in a second. Connor McDavid. We like talking about Connor McDavid, and we have to talk about Connor McDavid often because he often shows up in these conversations. And the most recent thing to happen is that 2 days ago, Connor McDavid was welcomed to the 900 points club.
That's
becoming
insane.
The fifth fastest player in NHL history to do so. Can you guys together name the four that did it faster?
Wayne Gretzky.
Correct.
Actually, Endo, go first because you have to bounce.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky. I'm stealing yours. I don't know, man.
It's the easiest
Mario
one.
Lemieux.
Correct.
Who's that guy who played for the Islanders? I can't remember his
Bullshit,
name.
you gotta know his name.
He's
that
on the
old
right
guy.
track.
He had like a higher goals per game.
I know
than,
who
like,
it is.
anybody else
Yeah.
in the league.
God damn.
Yeah, Brian Trottier.
Oh
No,
my
not that one.
god, no.
I don't know.
All right,
Fuck,
so
man.
Endo's stuck.
I
I'm
don't-
going Gretzky, Lemieux, Yager, Bossy, and
Bossy.
Well, you named four, and three of them were correct.
what? Yager wasn't
Three.
correct?
Yager wasn't correct.
Shit. Okay,
Yeah.
I got
You probably won't get the last one even with the hint, so it's fine.
Okay.
Connor McDavid secured, and we do have to say goodbye to Endo, by the way. He does have to get to a hockey game. Endo,
Yeah.
we love you. Endurance M on Twitter, and we'll see you tonight for more Legacy.
Yeah. See you guys. Bye.
Beautiful.
Hello.
Bye.
Bye.
Connor McDavid did it in 602 games. In fourth place, Peter Stastny, 599 games.
Wouldn't have got that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. In 582 games, Mike Bossy. In 463 games, Mario Lemieux. And in 385 games, Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, it's so absurd.
Every time we do one of these McDavid, oh my God, milestone things, it's always like, well, how quickly did Wayne do it?
Yep.
And every time the number's fucking hilarious. Every single time. It's funny because now you track, like, people are like naming people that McDavid has more points than, and it's like Tony Amani, Corey Perry, Jonathan Taves, noted top 100 player of all time, Peter Forsberg, Ilya Kovalchuk, Eric Lindros, and it's like it's insane, and he is insane, and obviously he is a huge part of the reason as to why, once he got healthy, right? Because he got injured and then played in that outdoor game, and it's like, what are you doing? Oh, we got to market him for TV. Yeah, that's marketable. Kind of brings us to the
let's not get back into
Jamal
that
Mayers thing, but not yet.
Oh yeah.
The Oilers have turned it around this season. Like, they're still technically not even in the top 3 spot in their division right now because that slow start was brutal. And I don't think that Jay Woodcroft was necessarily the problem, but there is no denying they have improved since they fired him. They have gone 16-6-0 since November 12th, which is the second best points percentage in the league. They have the second most goals for. They're tied for 6th fewest in terms of goals against. Like, the team has turned around and been more of what they were expected to be. Again, sometimes a coach just loses the room. It doesn't mean he's necessarily a bad coach. Sometimes it's just time to move on. We saw that with the Bruins, where it's like, they wouldn't have won. I don't think they would have won 65 games to Bruce Cassidy last year. I don't. Just the way the locker room was and the style. But then obviously it worked out really well for Bruce Cassidy. He went on to win the Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
It's just how the game works sometimes. As we've talked about before, it's always easier to get rid of a coach than it is to, completely reconstruct your entire team. So, outside of that, we have 2 other things. One of which was the World Juniors, which was going to be more of an endo topic than a Sin topic, because I know Sin hasn't really paid too much attention to it. We are down to the gold medal game as of this afternoon. It is going to be the United States taking on Sweden. The U.S. knocked out the Finns earlier today, and Sweden beat the Czech Republic. Arguably the biggest talking point in regards to this tournament would have been Canada falling short as they did. It led to the very typical thing of people being ridiculous on social media, to the point where, like, Oliver Bonk for Canada disabled his Instagram and shit like that. And, I was going to mention for Endo, just like, that's just kind of how it's been set up in Canada. Like, the importance of the World Juniors, and any time they fall short, there's a history of the players, you're talking guys 20 and under that just get verbally abused on social media. Like, it happens all the time. Was it Max Comtois a couple of years ago?
It's every year. Canadians just fucking go crazy on their players. It's really gross, and grow up, man. Like, holy crap. I don't even want to talk about it too much because it's depressing, and we've already talked about it enough.
I've come back to make an announcement about the World Juniors. Hi, I'm still kind of like leaving for hockey stuff. Yeah, fuck Canada. Fuck every single boomer who's harassed anybody from the World Junior Championship team or anyone a part of any sort of team in the World Juniors. They are teenagers. You are getting mad over patriotism, over children essentially playing a hockey game for the passion of their country. You haven't done fucking anything in your life to dignify yourself to have that sort of power or influence on those people. Fuck you. You're disgusting. You are. What is wrong with the game? Jennifer Botterill was right. Fuck you guys. Anyways, I'm out. God bless America.
Thank you, Endo Mills. That was actually perfect. Outside of that, World Junior wise, you can kind of talk about certain performances. Cutter Gauthier, who was a Philadelphia Flyers top 5 pick, leading the tournament in points. A lot of people looked at that U.S. roster, was like, shit, probably the team to beat. And then Sweden as the hosts, making it to the final. I'm very excited to watch that final game, and hopefully, I don't know, did they change the rule? Can this tournament still end in a fucking shootout? Hopefully not. Because that's a fucking terrible rule, but it is what it is, if that is still the case. Our final talking point today is another like, oh, good, this conversation again type of things. Over the last week, Minnesota played Winnipeg. These two teams have a a history of being rather physical when playing one another, if not dirty. It's just kind of what it is. If you ask both sides, fan bases from both sides, fuck them, the type of thing. In the last game that they played, Ryan Hartman off a face-off against Cole Perfetti hit Perfetti in the face and with his stick. So essentially both guys taking the face off, and Hartman just kind of tilts his stick blade forward and smacks Cole Perfetti in the mouth. Cole Perfetti stated that Ryan Hartman made it very clear to him after the high stick on New Year's Eve that it was intentional and retribution for an injury to Kirill Kaprizov, who was involved in a situation with Brendan Dillon, where Dillon cross-checked him in the fucking kidneys. Like,
did Brendan Dillon things.
Perfetti, who of course had nothing to do with that incident, was none too pleased. Jeff Merrick of Sportsnet made it clear. Further note on the Hartman situation. In exchange for players wearing microphones, because yes, players wear microphones, and it was captured on said microphone of Hartman being like, it was intentional. In exchange for players agreeing to wear the microphones, none of the audio captured can be used in connection with disciplinary action. This goes back to the 2005 agreement with the Players Association to even have the players wear the microphones in the first place. Kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. Makes for good clips, though, when it's someone celebrating a goal and you can hear the boys going, fuck yeah, fucking right. This has obviously led to a lot of talking in regards to that rule, the league itself. This wraps up with the whole Department of Player Safety and their lack of action, of course. This led to a heated, as was described by Sportsnet themselves, who hosted the segment, a heated exchange involving Jamal Mayers on a panel and Jennifer Botterill, where Jamal Mayers kind of took the approach we expected a former player to take, soon, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. I mean, just the whole, it's fine because you go and police the game and you get revenge, and this is how the game is played, and he honestly was cooked by Jen Botterill. She made the best point, is that this is not how you market your stars. This is not what you need to be telling young people to go in. Hey, if you're on a team who does something bad, you're in danger of getting your fucking teeth knocked out. And by the way, Cole Perfetti has had concussion history. Just got slashed in the face.
Yep.
Slashed in the head. And of course, when confronted with that, Jamal was like, "No, I'd tell my kid, and it's just part of the game, blah 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 blah." And of course, everyone's saying, Jen is, she doesn't play in the NHL. By the way, she's a fucking world champion. But it's not for the NHL. So clearly, women trying to ruin the game and soft game, and oh my god, you're.
I love the audacity of people saying that a 3-time Olympic gold medalist doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
That's the point that we've gotten to in these conversations, is
just goes to show you that people who say that shit never had a leg to stand on to begin with.
Basically.
They're just going to agree. It doesn't matter. An NHLer could come out and disagree, and they'll still fucking have something to say against it. They have their position. They'll use any excuse necessary to back it up. And the easiest one is, I go with the NHLer. No, you go with it because you're a fucking troglodyte who likes violence.
Yep.
Just be honest with yourself.
Pretty much. We mentioned the Department of Player Safety and its inconsistency, and we got another example. There was an incident involving Jason Zucker and Nick Cousins. And obviously Nick Cousins' name over the last couple of weeks has been in the spotlight of being involved in incidents and nothing really happening. So Jason Zucker went after him, and despite being a first-time offender, was suspended for 3 games. Because
Hartman has 6 fines in his career.
How dare you retaliate against the guy who always does dirty shit? This would be like if Brad Marchand, at his peak rat behavior, wasn't suspended after kneeing somebody, but then the guy that jumped him afterwards gets suspended for it. It'd just be bullshit. It's the only way to put it.
Yep.
We talked about it a lot in the last show and kind of how we felt about the state of hockey in 2023. And obviously, this show has been another example of the good with the bad in terms of hockey. That is just what it's been so consistently for the past year and a half, 2 years. I mean, it's always been that way, but like that really just feeling of what the fuck are we doing here? It's one thing when you're talking about officiating and DOPS, but then when you get the real life subjects being mixed into it, it just makes situations like this feel so much worse.
Yeah.
And when you have a former player like Jamal Mayers being like, that's the game, it's just, again, the idea of the NHL. What is your game? What are the rules? Who are you marketing to? Are you trying to keep the same culture that led to people having serious drug addiction issues, that led to people having severe CTE issues, which led to deaths? Is that the culture that we're trying to keep? Or do you want it to be a fast, exciting game that also has physicality, instead of being a game of physicality that also has exciting plays? It needs to be the first one where skill and entertainment value comes first. I am still perfectly fine with these, awesome body checks and center ice or a hip check that fucking flips somebody. I've mentioned it before too. I'm someone where it's like, man, if there's fighting in the league, cool. I'm good with that at the NHL level. Doesn't need to be at the fucking CHL level. Oh, but players need to learn how to protect themselves. Fuck off. It's just one of those things where it's like,
they learn that in training camp. You always see a video of a guy who fights training younger guys how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
They don't need it in the CHL when their brains are still developing.
Mm-hmm. It's just the kind of consistent back and forth of, back in my day in hockey, I watched Don Cherry's Rock'em Sock'em and watched all the fights and everything. And it's like, how many of those dudes that you watched have a good quality of life at this point? Whether or not they're in their 50s, 60s, or beyond. And even then, you can talk about guys like Ryan Kessler, like Zenon Konopka, who is 43 and has been incredibly open about the fact that he struggles to play with his own fucking kids now because his body is fucking destroyed. It's just one of those things where it's that constant debate of, what are you marketing the game to be? What do you want the persistent style to be? Because at the end of the day, whatever that style is what people will do. And if the style caters to, I can punch my way to the NHL, destroy my fucking body more than it's already going to be destroyed from being a professional athlete, and to hell with the consequences because it's my dream. We've already seen what the result of that is. The result of that is Derek Bogard, is Wade Belak. That's just a fact. We know this. We saw it. It happened. We're not advocating here as hockey fans to get rid of the physicality of the game. But the physicality of the game and the fucking code and all that shit, it's got to be secondary at best. What's going to lead to the NHL having more success? Is it going to be Connor McDavid scoring these sick goals? Or is it going to be, man, did you see that guy get taken out on a fucking stretcher? It's like, yeah, that type of marketing is really working out for Dana White's slap fight right now. Or power slap, whatever the fuck it's called. That's really working out for their marketing. They have a stellar reputation. What do you want to be? And I don't think the NHL knows, as we've kind of covered throughout the show.
Exactly what I was going to bring up. They can't decide. Because if they want to keep this old school mentality, why don't they show clips of fights? They stopped doing that a long time ago. Because they don't want to promote that. They want the speed and skill. But now, again, they're scared. They're waiting to see which side of this fight wins amongst their fan base. That's essentially what they're doing. The most viewed clip is still that Zegras lacrosse shit. I'm pretty sure for the NHL.
I'm looking.
Should be clear to them, but they're idiots and they can't decide.
I'm looking on their TikTok, and I don't know the last time that they shared a fight.
I don't think they would have ever shared it in the TikTok era. Like, that's how long ago that they would ever share fights. They cut them out of all of the condensed games and highlights they have for at least the last 5 years.
Very true. Yep.
So it seems like the NHL want to move in that direction, but they're fucking scared to commit to it because guess what? A bunch of old heads run the league. A bunch of old heads have been positioned in these places. A former enforcer runs the Department of Player Safety, which is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And you have analysts like Jamal Mayers who are just so ingrained in that, and they cannot see why it's a bad idea. And when you have the outside voices, the observers who, guess what, are also, students of the games like Jen Broderell telling you like, hey, this is not the proper way to market. They're just like, they're so have tunnel vision into how it's been that they cannot see the way forward, this better way forward because of that. And that's the reason why the NHL continues to struggle. And I don't care. It's not that we want to get rid of physicality. We just don't want it to be the forefront. We don't want people at risk of their careers ending who are bright young players. Perfetti's a good young player. He's the future of the game. And he just got caught up in a freaking blood feud that he had nothing to do with because he's on the team.
And but what about the code, Sin? You're not supposed to go after Cole Perfetti. You're supposed to go after the other team's enforcer and punch him in the face. And then he says to his young guys, don't do shit because then I get punched in the face. I thought they weren't supposed to go after Cole Perfetti.
Yeah.
The code.
Well, the code is bullshit. And we've always known it's bullshit. It's a bad joke. Like, the code failed the second there wasn't an enforcer on every single team. There's still guys who will fight. Brendan Dillon's one of them. So go after Dillon. But of course, he's the one who did the infraction. And so you're like, okay, well, the tough guy did that. We don't really want anyone to fight the tough guy. Let's just go after one of their skill guys. Why didn't you go after Scheifele? Like, he'll drop him occasionally. He's a fucking goon in and of himself at times.
I'm sure the NBA really regrets marketing towards their high skill players. Instead of the era of
the Pistons.
The Pistons just brutalizing Michael Jordan or hack a Shaq.
Yeah.
Because people are like, how the fuck do we stop Shaq? Try to injure him. That's all we can do. I'm sure that that's good. It's good for the players, as opposed to the high skill game that they have now.
Yeah.
The evolution of the three. Evolution. That's a word in sports. Evolving the game?
Yeah.
What?
The good news is that the game is going to continue to evolve towards this high skill because the NHL did enough to put the foot in the door, and all the young guys, they care about the high skill. All the ones coming in, most of them don't care about the fighting and stuff like that. They have to learn when they get to the NHL. So at least the baseline has been set, and it's going to continue to trend in this way. It's just I'm sick of the league itself being the one to hold itself back constantly.
The NHL. Hey, the Michigan's really cool, guys. Weirdos on Twitter. Oh, don't worry, guys. We still like fighting, too.
Mm-hmm.
We still like the physicality, too. Don't worry. Hey, everybody, remember when we said the Michigan's really cool? Don't say it too loud. We don't want to upset the old heads. But the Michigan's really cool. Wink. Like, that's what that's what they do. It's insane. It's insane. Anyway, I think that wraps us up for another edition of your favorite hockey podcast that hates the NHL. It's a difficult line to toe, being a hockey podcast, but hating the number one league, not the best league, but hating the number one league in that regard. But hey, we do what we can, right?
I'll bring up before we even end it. When I went to the Liga game, They didn't give a fuck about if penalties were even. Like, oh, there's an infraction, I'll call it. There's a situation, almost a scrum appeared in the corner, kind of three players start jostling. All three of them went to the box. 2 for one side, 1 for the other. They didn't make it even. They're like, you guys were involved. Go to the fucking box.
Mm-hmm.
It's now 4-on-3. Enjoy. Penalty shot was called in the game because it was a penalty shot. Other leagues do it. They just call the rules. It was
Nick Ritchie.
Tremendous.
Nick Ritchie is a name that I need to bring up because he is playing in Liga and he was involved in a situation where he just started fucking wailing on a guy and he got suspended for 8 games.
Good.
Imagine 8 games. Holy shit. As opposed to all the other stuff when's the last time the NHL handed out an 8-game suspension for something that happened on ice? Because the most recent long suspension was Shane Pinto. And that was, again, for off ice. So I'm trying to think, when the hell was the most recent, longest suspension? Tom Wilson? I think Tom Wilson was involved
in the playoffs, or no?
In the preseason, even, but that was shortened to regular season. I'm trying to remember. It's been very, very few and far between that the NHL has actually dropped the hammer on somebody and actually fucking suspended them.
It's funny. I just Googled NHL 8-game suspension. The first thing that pops up is NHL.com and then the blue text with the link, and 8-game suspension right below. No information is available for this page.
The NHL, everybody. Enjoy it. Love it.
Nazem Kadri suspended 8 games for the hit on Justin Falk. 21.
2020. Okay. And how many incidents have happened since 2021 that could have justified an 8-game suspension? That
quite a few.
That's a fine. That'll teach him. That'll teach him.
Yeah, that's how Ryan Hartman keeps escaping. He has no history, despite having 6 fines in the last. It's insane. How people don't get histories because they don't get fucking suspended. Ugh. Fines should count as history, by the way.
But don't worry. Because, as reported by the Fourth Period, David Pagnot on Twitter, I just saw this. The NHLPA is making a, quote, important announcement next Wednesday, January 10th, with the Mental Health Commission of Canada opening minds, quote, on a new program to support the mental health of NHL players. Well, they need all the support they can get because the NHL is perfectly fine with most of these guys still getting brained on a nightly basis. Because, as you mentioned, why would a former goon see a problem with braining somebody? Really, they don't. On a positive note, it was also a report out from Adam Seaborn on Twitter, at AHB Seaborn. Inaugural PWHL game on January 1st delivered over 700,000 viewers across CBC and TSN in Canada. Massive number for the league's first game. And that's great. Is the stuff that keeps this show going because, damn it, you gotta try. It's like life in general. Fucking being a hockey fan now, you gotta try to find the positives through all the negative shit. Welcome to modern day hockey fandom, everybody. With that, we will wind things down. Sin for the win. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Sin FTW Productions. Doing some different content. I had put out a 1-year rebuild challenge a few days ago on my channel of the Buffalo Sabres. It was pretty fun. And then today I launched the first episode of our NHL Legacy World Tournament. I'll just be doing game by game, and that sets me up with some nice content for about the next week or so, because I think we play 6 or 7 games. 7 games, so perfect. Week's worth of content right there. And I'll be sprinkling some other stuff in. I'm essentially changing up my channel. I'm doing more other fun games I like. I'm just trying to have a bit more content, some of it easier to record, but some of it a bit more difficult. I'm just trying to keep things fun and keep myself engaged in the content creation. So tune in.
You can find me at Tougie24 on Twitch and YouTube, of course. Sin will be there as well as we continue probably a journey through some older NHL games. The Eastern All-Stars were actually just announced. from Chris Johnston. Just one defenseman amongst the first 16 All-Star selections. That's Rasmus Dahlin. Top 5 league scorers are Temi Panarin and William Nylander were passed over for teammates Igor Shesterkin and Austin Matthews, meaning they'll need to get in via fan vote. 2 of the league's top 5 scorers are not instant All-Stars. I wonder why no one watches the fucking All-Star game anymore.
Yep.
With that, everybody, we will be back at some point next week. Might still stick to one show for now. We shall see. At the very least, we thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you all then. Have a lovely weekend, and make sure to check out those PWHL games on Friday and Saturday.